Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at a GameCube-inspired Nintendo Switch controller, and that's the Duelist wireless gamepad from Retro Fighters. And real quick, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on everything happening with the channel. And with that out of the way, let's take a look. So this box actually showed up on my front porch as a total surprise. So full disclosure, Retro Fighters did send this to me for free, but all opinions of it are my own. I had seen them post about it on their Instagram page and I thought it looked really cool at the time. So I was definitely pretty excited to see it show up. So here's the box here for the Duelist, and as you can see, it's got that classic indigo of the GameCube controller as well as a C-stick and some larger buttons. We'll flip it over on the back. So you can see that this was made specifically for Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it's completely wireless. And then there's also one special button included that offers some functionality specifically for Smash Bros. Ultimate. So we'll take a look at that in just a second here. I'll get the box out of the way. So here is the Duelist wireless gamepad. As far as feel goes, it's definitely a very comfortable ergonomic controller. The grips here are a little more bulbous than the standard Switch Pro controller, which feels really nice in the hand. And then it is a hard plastic, but there is like a slight texturing on the top portion of the bottom of the grips here, which is nice. And then as far as the buttons go, everything feels really good. I especially love the feel of the C-stick. It's super nostalgic. It's got a nice rubberized cap on the top. Just immediately brings me back to the GameCube days. D-pad feels really good, nice response. Really like the feel of the analog stick. Definitely feels very similar to the GameCube controller. Triggers feel really good as well. The Z triggers are not analog though, but that really wouldn't be anything you could do with the Switch anyway. And then you've got the much larger A button here, and your B and your X and Y all feel really good. And plus and minus buttons, and your capture and home buttons. And then this special mode button, which actually works with this S button here, which is added. And what that does essentially is it allows you to either pull off a smash attack or a short hop with a single button press in Smash Brothers. And you can change that functionality on the fly by just pressing this button here, and that'll cycle between the different modes. And then, yeah, you just press this button and that'll either pull off your smash attack or short hop. And yeah, I think that's really about it as far as overall feel goes. So we've got the USB-C port here for charging. And yeah, everything feels really good. It's got a decent weight to it. The build quality seems really nice. All the buttons and sticks feel really good. And obviously, you know, really love the nostalgic look of it here for anyone who's a big fan of the GameCube era. I guess let's get into the features here. So obviously this is completely wireless, and this controller is compatible with PC as well. But it's interesting, in the manual it says that you'll only be able to use this wired with PC. So you can use the included USB-A to USB-C cable, or I'm sure you can use a different A to C cable if you've got one of those around. But I thought that was kind of interesting because as far as I can tell, this behaves as a standard Switch Pro controller, which you can connect to a PC with Bluetooth. So that's a little interesting. And then one problem that some third-party controllers do have is you're unable to wake up the Switch from sleep when pressing the home button, but don't have to worry about that here. This wakes up the Switch just fine, just like with your standard Pro controller. And then, yeah, we already mentioned the mode button here to switch between your short hop or smash attacks. And it's really cool that that can be used on the fly. It's just super simple to use. You can just cycle through it and it immediately changes. You know, you don't need to pause the game or anything. And I can't really find any specs online, so I'm not sure how big the battery is in here. I have yet to run the battery down on this and charge it, so I'm estimating that you can probably expect somewhere around 30 hours off of a full charge, but maybe some more information will come out as we get closer to the release. So that's definitely worth mentioning. I'm recording this video in the beginning of September, and this controller isn't even listed on Retro Fighters' site yet. I believe it will be launching sometime next week, you know, maybe somewhere between the 7th or the 10th of September. And that'll be on Retro Fighters' site as well as Castlemania Games. And I guess this was actually launched as a Kickstarter back in 2020, but Retro Fighters canceled funding to do some retooling of the layout. And all I can really tell that's different from that original listing is that the S button was placed in the center here between the Y and X buttons, and I definitely think it makes sense to go with this new modern layout here with the X and Y close to each other and then the S kind of off up to the top here. And when I was looking on the back of the box, I didn't see anything mentioned about rumble, so I just assumed like, oh, this surely doesn't have it. But when I tried this with Smash Brothers, I was pleasantly surprised. It does feature rumble, but I don't believe it has motion or NFC functionality for Amiibo. So I think that probably covers it as far as features go. Now, I do have a Wavebird controller here just for some comparison to the original GameCube layout, and you can see there's a lot of similarities obviously with the spacing and the C stick and the analog stick obviously being the things that most closely match the GameCube controller. The D-pad is a bit larger, which I think is good. The GameCube controller has a very, very tiny D-pad. It still feels really good though. And I guess getting into maybe some little critiques of the controller here, I guess I'm a little surprised that, you know, Retro Fighters didn't go with a full faithful recreation of the GameCube layout here with the kind of ovular Y and X buttons. And I will say B and A will be the buttons you'd be using the most in Smash, and those feel really good. The placement is very similar to the GameCube controller, but if you're someone who uses the X and Y for your jump rather than doing up on the analog stick, which I'm pretty sure for competitive Smash players, they go with the button hops over the analog stick. These are pretty tiny and pretty close together. So that took a little getting used to because this doesn't feel exactly like the Switch controller or the GameCube controller, so it definitely took a while to kind of build up that muscle memory for the layout here. That's probably my biggest criticism with the controller overall, is just how close together and small the X and Y buttons are. I guess this is getting really nitpicky. When I'm playing Smash, I definitely tend to hit the buttons a little harder than I would playing some other games, especially since you've kind of got some like pressure sensitive attacks with the stick. Even though the buttons feel really good and nice and clicky, I did feel sometimes that I could almost press the A button further than where it clicks in, which made me feel like maybe the board under here isn't quite as secured as it could be. So maybe over time with a lot of wear and tear, that's something that could eventually wear out a little bit. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And like I said, this isn't listed on Retro Fighter's site yet. I did pull up the old Kickstarter page. I believe this will go for $35 MSRP. There were some early bird discounts on the Kickstarter where you could, you know, save a few bucks and get it for around 28. But I think for $35 and the overall build quality and functionality, because, you know, it does include rumble, it is wireless and rechargeable, and you've got that added smash button here, I think that's a really fair price. So I do think if you're someone who just enjoys the novelty of kind of the GameCube styling here, or you are someone who plays a ton of Smash Brothers and really prefers the GameCube layout, I do think there's an audience for this controller. But then of course you do have to get used to the X and Y buttons, close placement. While playing, I did a couple times accidentally hit those buttons thinking I was pressing the smash button or vice versa, but I think with a little bit of time you will get used to it. So if you're watching this immediately after this video gets posted, I'll probably update the description once the listing to this goes live, but if you're watching it later, hopefully it'll be there already. And yeah, I think that's gonna about do it. This is a really cool controller I'm excited to have. I've built up quite the collection of Switch controllers, and this one is definitely unique. Analog sticks and buttons feel great. The added smash button is definitely a cool feature. I really like that it has rumble, even though it weirdly doesn't list it on the package. And I couldn't really think of it, but maybe there would be some other games where this smash button could lend itself to some helpful, almost like macro functionality where this could work in another game. So yeah, let me know down in the comments if this would be something you're interested in, or if you have any questions that I didn't answer in the video, I'll try and pop in there and do my best to answer those. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like on your way out and also consider subscribing. And until the next video, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.